Welcome to the Purpose Driven Mom Show, episode 392. Today, we're going to talk about boundaries, everyone's favorite topic, right? Raise your hand if you're also a reforming people pleaser. I know that boundaries are kind of a hot button topic. They're challenging. We struggle to hold them. We struggle to create them. And I'm going to give you some tips today on why you need them, how to keep them, and how to enforce them, even when people push your buttons a little bit. Okay. Boundaries matter in your work goals, your personal goals, in your life. And I'm going to tell you that I struggle with boundaries if I'm not intentional. You can see behind me if you're watching on YouTube, quarter one's goal or word of the quarter, right? Intentionality. And for me, that is one of those things I've decided to do is boundaries. Boundaries can be a challenge, but I want to tell you that when you create boundaries around your goals, when you create boundaries around your time, when you create boundaries on what you do and say yes and no to, you will find yourself feeling more free, less resentful, less annoyed, and just more empowered in your own life. And I'm going to talk to you today about boundaries. Now, if you're someone who's struggled with boundaries before, know that you're going to have a little bit of a learning curve here, and other people are going to struggle in the beginning when you enforce boundaries. We teach people how to treat us. So if you have constantly allowed other people to step over your boundaries, when you start to enforce them, you're going to hit pushback. You're going to have people who don't understand. You're going to have people who feel frustrated with you. And it's going to be hard and you're going to want to quit on them. But I'm going to encourage you to instead pause and say to yourself, I am capable of keeping boundaries. Create positive affirmation statements around your boundaries. I am someone who deserves to have boundaries. I'm better on working on my goals when I have boundaries. I am happier and more content when I have boundaries. Repeating these things to yourself will allow you to feel more aligned and it will help you achieve goals. So here is some boundaries I'm going to encourage you to start and how to keep them. Okay. Now, I like to have rules for myself of things I say yes to and things I say no to automatically. So whenever you're starting a new goal, whenever you're starting a new project or something pops up, I want to encourage you before you need to think about what boundaries you want to set. So if I said to myself, I have an exercise goal, I want to exercise in the mornings. What boundaries do I need around that to make that happen? What obstacles will potentially come up for me and how can I set that? One of the non-negotiables I encourage you to make is around what you say yes or no to, and these can change in each season. Now, this can be tricky when you're trying to keep them, but it's okay if they change. So I am 40, I'm going to be 40 this year. So I'm kind of out of that phase where most of my friends are getting married or having babies. But if anyone else remembers like the late 20s, early 30s period, at least in my life, baby showers and weddings and engagement part, I mean, bridal stuff. There was so many things happening that cost money and that took up a lot of my time. And I didn't have kids then, so I was more likely to say yes. But now I have some things I just don't say yes to. So for me, like baby showers, I just don't go to. Now I have some caveats. If it's like a best friend or somebody, of course I'm going to go. But more often than not, if I get invited to things like wedding showers or baby showers, again, I'm pretty much out of that season of life. So the invitations are pretty rare. I say no to them. And I make that rule for myself. So when they come up, I'm like, nah, I don't have to even think about making the decision. I'll send a gift, but I'm not going to go. Why? Because I don't want to do it. I don't want to sit there and play the game and do the thing. Right now, if I have a friend who's gone to all of my things and then it's their turn, of course I'm going to go. But more often than not, I'm like, now I'm not going to do that. Now, last year, I had a very full schedule. And this year, my schedule is a little bit lighter because I've taken on less volunteer responsibilities. And I want to encourage you to think through this in the lens of volunteering now. If you have kids and you're involved in the parent organization or things like that. So last year, I was a Girl Scout leader. I coached cheer for the first time ever, sideline and competition cheer. And I had positions inside of our Girl Scout council. And it was a lot. It was a lot of things to do. Now, this year, my daughter's cheering, but I am not involved. I'm not coaching. I'm not team mom. I am on the volunteer committee where I help do service projects because that's something that's like core for me. Like if it's a service project, like I'm here for it. But I am not doing that this year. And there's so much freedom in that. And so I want you to also think about a boundary and a non-negotiable you might make specifically around the things you volunteer for. Now, if you're not somebody who finds that you say yes to a lot of those volunteer things, ignore this part of what I'm saying, but think about it if you are. I am someone who says yes. If someone asks me something, I am of the mentality of see a need, fill a need. Like that has always kind of been the way that I am in my life. I am an Enneagram 3 wing 2. I love to help people. If they need somebody to do something, like I'm in for it, right? But this year I said to myself, or in 2023 and now into 2024, I said, I am not going to say yes to volunteer things anymore. Like my schedule at this exact moment is as full as it needs to get. Now, if they need a financial donation, if they need something I can do where I don't have to physically be there, I might say yes, like if you need something made. But more often than not, I'm choosing to pause, think, and reflect on it. This is allowing me to really make decisions that are connected with what I want to volunteer for. Now, there is a Girl Scout position I'm thinking of picking up for the next school year. I'm giving it a lot of thought right now because right now, my answer is no. Right now, it is my plate is very full. Thank you very much. I appreciate it, but I can't fit it in right now. My schedule has moved around where I technically could go to the PTG, our parent teacher group organization meetings, and I wanted to do that. But I said to myself, I told myself I was not adding any more volunteer positions this year. So if they need a one-off thing, like they have the secret shop or the book fair, I will donate an hour or so, but I don't need to be on leadership. And I think that giving myself that boundary before the school year started has been really helpful because I do want to show up. I do want to help. I do want to do things, but I do a lot. And if I continue to add things to my plate, and maybe you're the same, you're going to find that something gets sacrificed somewhere else inside of your family or your main priorities. So I want you to come up with some rules and non-negotiables about volunteering, about events and things you say yes or say no to. And I also need you to think about some boundaries that you might want to have around your time. So in 2024, I have a couple time rules I've given myself. And I thought through this a lot. I was like, all right, what do I want my time to look like? Because I love my job, I love working, but I want a little more downtime. I want a little more time freedom. I want to ease. That is my year word for the entire, my whole life. Intentional is for work, for quarter one, but my overarching is I want ease in my life. I didn't have a lot of that last year. And so when I went into 2024, I said to myself, how can I give myself more ease when it comes to my time? And I decided to take one day off a week. This is a day where on Thursdays, my kids are at school, I am home, and I get to do whatever I want. Isn't that a novel thing? Whatever I feel like. Now, my brain immediately was like, great, I can catch up on chores and things like that. Maybe, but that's not how I wanted to spend the time. So I created boundaries around my time where on Thursdays, I'm taking the day off. I'm not working on Thursdays. If I work on a Thursday, it is an exception and not the norm. And so what do? If a friend wants to meet up for coffee or go to lunch, it's going to happen on Thursdays. If I have errands to run, I will probably do those Thursdays. I love to run my errands during the day. Like, let me not be out on a weekend. I hate being out at night. I want to spend that time to do that. If I want to read my book, if I just want to sit and read or catch up on a show or just have time for me, I'm going to do it on Thursdays. Now, let me tell you what this does for me boundary-wise. One, when people say, hey, you want to meet up? What I used to do is like, okay, let me look at my schedule for next week. Now it's very clear. Yeah, I can meet up on Thursdays. Let me see when the next Thursday I have available is. I don't want to do 2 meetups. Like tomorrow I have a coffee date with someone in the morning. I don't want to have like a lunch date in the afternoon. My social battery, I feel like would be like, no, we're good. But one Thursday, I can say, what's my next free Thursday? And I can look into it and decide what my next free Thursday is. And based on that, I can make a plan. I now know where it goes. If I'm at the doctor, or if I need to make an appointment, I can clearly be like, cool, can we make it for Thursdays? Because what I was doing last year was fitting it in wherever. I was like, okay, cool, I have a chunk here. But then it was messing with my time. So I'd be like, oh, I have an appointment on Tuesdays and then I have a work call here. So I have to leave and come back. And I was like not getting in the workflow and it wasn't honoring my time. Now it is very clear my boundary. Thursdays, appointments. If I want to run errands, if I want to meet up with someone for lunch or coffee, if I want to hang out at my house, that is what I do on Thursdays. If I choose to work because I want to, I was just working on a new project. I got excited. I wanted to do it on Thursday. So I did. If I choose to work, I do it. That's my decision. But I'm not saying I'm doing it all the time. And the one thing that's great about this is it allows me to relax. It allows my brain to say and decide, hey, you know what? This week's been really tricky. I have a lot going on. On Thursday, you get a break. On Thursday, you get time for you. On Thursday, you get to relax. And I'm really trying to honor that. The other thing that I'm going to recommend when it comes to your time, especially if you are a work-at-home mom like me, is you create boundaries around your day. I have a few of those when it comes to phone calls and text messages and things like that. If my phone rings between the hours of 9 and 3, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Friday, I don't pick it up. Now, this is all rules, right? But I have exceptions when stuff happens. But I have had to tell people and train them to say, I'm not picking my phone up. I will get back to them outside of my work hours. Because here's the thing, especially as a work-at-home mom, I've talked about this before. I feel like people don't always understand what we do. We don't understand what it looks like. They'll be like, hey, just come and meet up. No, I'm working. If I was at a traditional job, like you wouldn't ask me to do that. Right? Like, I wouldn't watch your kid. Like if people, can you watch my kid and stuff? I'm working and I need to honor that. And if I don't create the boundaries in advance, it is easy to have people break them. So I don't answer my phone. I do look at text messages on my lunch break. I try really hard not to answer them right away, because this goes back to the teaching people how to treat us. If you are somebody who, as soon as you get a text message, you answer it, people now associate you with that. So then if you take any longer than instant gratification minutes that we here want, people are going to be like, what's wrong? You're not getting back to me, things like that. I will get back to you when I can get back to you, right? And I want to talk about the text messages thing real quick, because I've had to have a conversation with friends, because as women, I feel like it's very much, we must be on for everyone all the time. And that is incredibly frustrating. And so I am one of those, like we joke, there's memes, right? Where it's like, you text me at 10, you'll hear back from me at 6 a.m. Yeah, I'm in bed, right? So I'm not answering my phone. But you could text me and I'll get back to you in 3 days. And sometimes it's because if I look right now, I have 6 text messages and they're all about scheduling out Thursday appointments that I sent last Wednesday. I sent them a week ago and I haven't had a chance to go back to my Thursday schedule to get and look at the next appropriate Thursday. If I touch that message, I will forget to get back to it. So I answer people when I can answer people, right? And I don't jump at them, because I used to do that and people felt like they were owning my time when I'm the one in charge of that. And so I've had conversations with other mom friends of mine, and the first thing, and maybe you do it too, if they get back to you more than a day late, is, sorry, I didn't get back to you. Can we stop apologizing for that? No, I get manners and things like that. But I've said to my friends, and I'll answer her back, whatever it was. And I remember this conversation, I was like, please don't ever feel like you have to say, you're sorry for not answering me. I do not expect you to be on your phone all the time at my demand. And I think let's normalize that. Let's normalize that in our friendships. Let's normalize that in our family. Let's normalize that in life. That I think we forget, selfishly, because we're selfish humans, that other people have other things going on besides what we need. Now, yes, if it is time sensitive, please get back to people, of course. But I think when the expectation is you're going to answer me right away, or something's wrong, or you're mad at me, or things like that, it doesn't work. And I had to have this conversation with my team as well early on, because when I was doing network marketing, I was answering messages nonstop. As soon as a message would come, I was answering it. I was getting in there, and like people were chasing me down on DM. I was so afraid to lose a sale, and it created this hustle culture I didn't like. And so one of the things I said to my team was, listen, you can message me when you're thinking of something. We use Voxer. It's like a walkie-talkie app, right? Message me. I will get back to you when I have time. It doesn't mean I'm mad at you. It doesn't mean anything, whatever you want to make it mean. It just means I just haven't had time to answer you, right? And then we've normalized, if it's time sensitive, this is how you can get me. If I don't get back to you in 48 hours, like maybe I read it and I forgot about it because I'm human and deserve grace, re-tag me, resend me the message, right? And I will do the same for you. Creating a culture of grace and accountability without the pressure that you own someone's time is really important. And you have to teach those to your people as well. Now, when it comes to work boundaries, if you're working from home, what I do recommend you do is try to set work hours if you can, right? Like I am fortunate, my kids are at school 9 to 3. So like my work hours are very cut and dry. But when my kids were not at school and they were home, I had to be strategic about it. So this past weekend, for example, we had a long weekend, we had some snow days. I needed to get work done. And so I said to my kids, hi, mommy has to go work, right? From 9 to 12. When 12 o'clock is done, I'll be done working for the day, and weekend my son wanted to play Monopoly. We can play games and whatever. And I honored that. When 12 o'clock hit, I stopped, we got lunch, and then we played games. I wasn't working all the time. I wasn't glued to my computer. I was very clear about my expectation. This way they know this is what I'm doing, this is why I'm doing it, and also I'm going to have time for you, okay? And I think that's really important. If you're trying to grow your business, and there are times in the beginning where you have to work outside of those hours, I understand that it can feel like you're always working. But if you don't create boxes around that, right? You don't create a little container of work time. One, you can always be you're never going to be done. You can always be working. You can always be doing something. Your family is going to most likely get resentful because mommy's always working, right? And then you're going to get burned out. So what if you created your own boundaries around when you work? And these can be different every single day, right? My kids had a snow day yesterday. So what my work day looked like yesterday was different than it looks like traditionally. And I'm fine with that. I pre-plan. If you're on YouTube, you can see like my charts behind me. I pre-plan what I'm going to get done, but I go with the flow when it comes to that. Other things that can help you boundary wise, this is my office. If you can work in somewhere that is not a kitchen table, I recommend somewhere with a door. We have a language we use here. When mommy has the door closed, she's in a closed door meeting. That's like when I'm doing coaching, or if I was recording and I didn't want to be interrupted, which means you cannot come in, right? If daddy's home, you can find daddy. If not, you have to wait unless it's an emergency. If the door is open and I'm working, feel free to come on in. Now, I will tell you, my husband is worse at this than the kids. I feel like I have to reiterate. He keeps walking on in. I'm like, do you know the door is closed, right? It doesn't mean people are always going to adhere to your boundaries, but it means that you can keep them. The other boundaries I want you to think about are personal accountability boundaries that you make with yourself around your goals. So I am running right now. It's one of my goals. I'd like to run a half marathon this year. I'm training. And so I have some accountability boundaries for myself to show up. So what are the boundaries I make around running is I have a non-negotiable, like I will run 3 times a week and I will run in the morning, and I'm going to honor that. So that boundary I set for myself is if something comes up that gets in the way of my running time, I will say no to it. So I run in the mornings before my kids get up. So this sometimes is me being like, I can't hit snooze as much. Or if I something else had to happen in the morning, I could say no to it, right? If you are like, hey, I run in the evenings after work, it's a little bit different. And if you said, hey, I'm running Monday, Wednesday, Friday, so if anything pops up on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I'm saying no. This is a date I make with myself. We need to have personal accountability. And the way to do that is to create boundaries, non-negotiables, and rules. So how do you get people on board? You got to communicate it with them. One of the things that I think is important is if you've been someone who hasn't had a lot of boundaries is this. Sit down with your people, whatever people they are. Could be your friends who are texting you all day long when you're trying to work. Could be your kids interrupting the work time. Could be your partner, whatever. And say to them, and clients, I want to say this one too, for those of you who are like virtual assistants, service-based providers who have clients, I do this with work. We have an away message that goes up because we need to have one. And I think, and I will say this, I don't think a lot of people understand like small business, right? Like Target has Target hours, right? Target has customer service hours, things like that, as does my business. And we'll have people who will email us on the weekend and then get, if they have a problem with something, but then they get mad that we don't answer them because it's the weekend. And then I'll like do a PayPal dispute. And I'm like, dude, it's a weekend, right? If this was you going to Target, and I mean, Target's open 24/7. So that's about it. What if it was a small boutique and they were closed on Mondays and you showed up on Monday and they weren't there? You're not going to get mad because those are their hours. So we have an away message. So I recommend this too, that goes up in our email that says what our hours are. We'll get back to you in 24 to 48 hours, things like that. We set the boundaries. So that's one with your customers, with your people. Before you get on a new client, go over that. Hey, I want to let you know that these are my work hours. If you message me on Slack, Box, or ClickUp, whatever you use, I will get back to you within 24 hours. If it seems like it's an emergency, here's how to contact me if you need. But I wouldn't recommend using that a lot, right? Especially with your clients. But I will get back to you within 24 hours. And saying why I think is important. And what I also think this does is it helps other moms feel empowered to do the same thing, right? So if I'm a mom business owner and I'm working, we have bookkeepers in the club, right? So I'm a bookkeeper, I have a new client, she's a small business owner and mom. That's going to empower her to be like, I should set boundaries too. So saying like, hey, I just want to let you know, this are my work hours. This is when I'm getting things done. And I do this because I try to keep a really good balance with my family and my work life. And I need to keep some boundaries there. You need to say it first. I think communicating it can feel awkward. You can feel unsure, but trust me that it is so good to do at the beginning of a relationship, a partnership with a client. The other thing that you'll need to do is if maybe things haven't been going the way you want. Say you sit down with your partner and you realize, I've been trying to work out these 3 nights a week. They're supposed to be on kid duty, and the kids keep coming in the gym, right? Like I have my treadmill right over there. I work out in my office gym area. There's a door. This is something that we hit, right? Here's a boundary. I would like the door closed so I can work out alone. And if daddy's home, like daddy is capable of helping, right? They have a dad too. That's what we say, like they can do it. So maybe that boundary isn't being kept. So I could sit and coming in using I statements in a non-accusatory way so they don't become defensive. Hey, can I talk to you about something? I've been really trying to fill in the blank, get my runs in at night alone when the kids aren't, coming in, because honestly for me, like it's dangerous when my kids are walking by the treadmill. I'm like distracted. I'm trying, I want to make sure they're safe. And I'm noticing that they keep coming in. I know that I haven't been really good at keeping this boundary because I've just been letting them come in, but do you think you could really help me keeping them out of the room? This is important to me because I want it to be safe. I'm just like explaining how you feel and just reiterating it. And even especially if it's one that like, maybe I've been letting my kids come in and I don't want that to happen. And I just let it happen. I can even send my kids, hey guys, listen, mommy, had made a rule that you weren't allowed to come into the gym when she's on the treadmill because it's not safe. And I've been letting you come into the gym. And I'm noticing that it's distracting me and I really want to work on my goal. So moving forward, right from now on, that door is going to be closed and I'm going to lock it. Actually, I don't like to lock it, but like I'm going to lock it and daddy is in charge for that. And you're going to have to stick to that. You're going to have to continue to keep that boundary to teach them and train them how to treat you. Okay. It's the same. We talk about thought catcher time. I used to run errands every single day. My husband would be like, I need soap. My oldest, I need deodorant. I need this. I would just stop and go to the store, messing up the schedule I made. You teach people, right? I run all my errands on Thursdays. So if you have something that you need done, do me a favor. We have a family shopping list. Put it on the shopping list. I'll get it on Thursday. If you need it before Thursday, just communicate that with me. But if it can wait till Thursday, that's when I run them. We have to stick with what we said. But in order to stick with what you said, you need to make the boundaries, you need to make the rules, you need to make your non-negotiables in advance, and then empower yourself to keep them. It is good for you. It's good for them to learn some boundaries. It helps you and them not feel resentful, and it allows you to feel in charge of your time, agency over your goals, and empowered that you're a person who can keep these boundaries. I'm actually going to go back this year for a new life coach certification. I have a multitude of them. And this one is a specialization in people pleasing. So get ready because I'm about to bring all of that to you in this quarter to help you figure out, how do we say no? How do we allow no to be a complete sentence? I'm going to give you some book recommendations that we're going to link up at the show notes at purposedrivenmom.com/podcast 392. These are really good ones if you struggle with that no, with that boundary. The first one is called The Art of Saying No by Damon Zaharias. And it is a really great one on how do you say no? It gives you scripts and things like that. Speaking of scripts, this is one of my favorite ones last year, Drive Your Own Darn Bus. And the author there is Julia Christina. And she talks about how you can have agency over your life, how you can say no, things like that. People pleasing is hard. And if you've never created boundaries because of whatever trauma you might have in your brain that makes you feel like you can't say no to people, I get it and I feel you. But I want to encourage you that when you start to create boundaries, you will start to say yes to more goals and feel more aligned. Again, show notes and those book recommendations, all things APDM, are over at purposedrivenmom.com/podcast 392. If you're listening on the podcast, don't forget to click below, come over to YouTube, come hang out with me, where we've got videos of all the podcast episodes. Have a fabulous day. Go set some boundaries, and I'll talk to you soon.